Ready?
Giddy up.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Wendy Jones with Strong Bonds Podcast, and I'm here with my new friend today, Rick Trzcinski. We are both locals in Kerrville, Texas, and we have something else in common. We are both Lyme warriors. We both have Lyme disease. And I just wanted to sit with him today and hear his story. And I'm a firm believer that the people like us that have this disease, the more we talk about it, the more we tell our own personal stories and get word out. It's got to help other people. I know it will. It's a very misunderstood disease, a very underdiagnosed disease. So I think one of the best things we as warriors can do is just simply tell our stories. So I'm anxious to hear your story today, and we'll get it out to as many people as we can. We both have a heart. We're both in the wellness industry, and we have a heart for helping people. So thank you for coming today, Rick.
You're welcome.
Glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
And we're just going to have a little candid note. I'm not going to interview you or anything like that. I just want it to be a candid conversation about you and what you've been through with this disease. So maybe you can kind of start with how you knew you had a problem and how you got your diagnosis and just where it went from there. Just tell your story.
Okay. Well, originally I am from Connecticut, where Lyme is prevalent. Actually, Lyme is named after a town in Connecticut called Lyme, Connecticut, where a bunch of school kids were getting really, really sick and they didn't know why. And they figured out that it was a bacterial infection, a tick bite. I was infected by a tick. I lived in Andover, Connecticut at the time, and I was infected by a tick bite, and I thought it was spider bite. So I went to my doctor. He said, "Yeah, it looks like a spider bite," and put me on some doxycycline, an antibiotic. Gave me the sign of the cross. Said, "In 10 days, you'll be fine," and I wasn't.
Yeah.
So I went back and he put me on another round of antibiotics, and I was still not feeling right. And over time, I progressively got worse and worse and worse. And so I started to seek out other avenues of health and wellness, other doctors, and trying to find out what was going on with me. And I had a lot of brain fog, a lot of body aches, mostly back pain, but a lot of body aches, and it felt like the pain was moving around my body. So one minute my knee would be aching incredibly bad, and then it would be my left shoulder, and then my back, and then my foot. And so the pain was rotating around through my body. And what's going on? I didn't know. And so it also felt like I had a lot of neuropathy in the bottoms of my feet. I did have a little rash. That's common with a tick bite. That's why I thought it was a spider bite originally. It wasn't a big rash. So sometimes the bullseye rash can be large. Mine wasn't. Sometimes you don't even get a rash. It can be in your hair and you never even notice it. These ticks are so small, but they do a lot of damage.
They do. They're mean little critters.
They got a big bite.
Yeah.
So over the years, I started to seek out what was going on with me. I've seen over 80 doctors and been on over 250 different supplements and medications in the last 20 years. I went to the Mayo Clinic up in Boston. I went to the Yale New Lyme Clinic, and I worked for UConn at the time, the University of Connecticut. And I was having a hard time just getting through a day of work. And so they were put me on prednisone, which is a steroid, and that was helping me get through the day. But what I didn't realize, it was actually making it worse. And it's like putting gas on the fire. Steroids just fed the Lyme.
Yeah.
And so I was getting worse and worse and worse. And then one day at work, I was working on an air conditioning unit on a commercial building up in Yukon, and my body just quit, gave out, and I fell off the air conditioning unit about 15 feet down to the roof, and was rushed to the hospital, and that was it. I didn't work after that.
So when you got to the hospital, did you tell them that you have Lyme and they recognized that?
No, I went there I messed up my back pretty bad when I had that fall. And I couldn't walk for about a year and a half after that. Between the back and the Lyme was part of the reason my back gave out and why I got so weak and crashed. My body just crashed.
Yeah.
Um, but all leading up to that, all those doctors that I saw kept telling me it was all in my head,
Mm-hmm.
that I was crazy. That looking at me, I looked healthy. I was an athlete. I was strong. I played all kinds of sports and everything. Um, so looking at me, you couldn't tell I was sick.
Yeah.
But brain fog and the body aches and just restless sleep. I just had a terrible time getting somebody to believe me
Right.
that I was sick. Till I met a doctor who was from Germany, Dr. Kessler, and she said she knew exactly what was going on with me right away. I actually found her in Lyme, Connecticut. I can't remember how I found her, but I was constantly researching to find somebody that would believe me.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody believed me. I saw rheumatologists. I mean, you name it. I went through the whole medical system.
Yeah, and in your blood work, when you have Lyme, typically comes back normal because they're not testing for Lyme for that
Right.
particular bacteria. So most people end up going to doctor after doctor, like in your case, and you get told your blood looks fine, everything's fine, there's nothing wrong with you. Maybe you just need some attention.
Yeah.
Maybe let's just send you over to the psychiatrist and say, or maybe you just need an antidepressant. And that's not helpful for
Yeah.
someone with Lyme.
And I was on all of that. I mean, I did it. I did what the doctors told me to do, and it made me worse
Worse,
and
yeah.
worse and worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and lucky for both of us, we were able to get diagnosed. A lot of people can never get that positive diagnosis, and they do. They literally end up in the psych ward because they get told they're crazy.
Absolutely. A chiropractor actually diagnosed me.
Mm-hmm.
He was a really great guy because I had a lot of back pain from the Lyme, and so I started to see a chiropractor, and he said, "I think you have Lyme disease." So, I think so too, and I was tested, and I was highly positive. So getting back to Dr. Kessler, once she saw me, I walked in with a walker to get into her office. I was extremely weak and could barely walk. And she said, I know exactly. First thing she did was get me off the prednisone. She said, you got to get off that. She showed me a study that was done by Anthony Fauci, where he was injecting beagles with Lyme disease and trying to cure them, and he wasn't able to, so he was murdering all these dogs,
Mm.
um, and it's just awful what he did to these animals. Um, but she showed me that study, and she showed me that prednisone. That's what he was using to try to cure the dogs, and she showed me the study. I still have it, and it proved to me that the prednisone was the wrong course of action for Lyme disease. It was just making everything worse, like it did on those poor dogs
Yeah.
that he.
I've seen that study. It's heartbreaking.
It is, and so she got me off the prednisone, and she immediately got me into a chronic Lyme study at Columbia University with Dr. Brian Fallon. I just reconnected with Dr. Fallon a couple weeks ago, and it was great to communicate with him. He told me I was one of the worst cases he's ever seen, and he was really happy to hear that I'm doing better now. 'Cause, I was in a really, really bad place, and Dr. Fallon is still studying Lyme disease at Columbia University in New York City, and he's really trying to figure this out for us. He's a true champion for Lyme disease. And I thanked him very much because I think he really helped me to get over that hump.
So when you were in that study, what was the treatment?
It was extremely painful. Spinal taps to make sure that the Lyme didn't go up to the brain. They wanted to check my spinal fluid. Never had a spinal tap before, and I never want one again. It
Mm-hmm.
was extremely painful. Um, but a lot of it was all testing, cognitive testing, mental testing, physical testing. It's a study, so they're just trying to figure out where you are mentally, physically, and emotionally. And I wasn't in a good place. And eventually, they kind of threw me out of the study because I was so bad that I couldn't take it anymore. And so he drove me home from New York City to my house in Connecticut personally, which I thought was phenomenal because I wouldn't have found my way home. I was so confused. I got to New York on a bus. I took a bus from Connecticut to New York City, and I got lost. I was so confused.
So the spirochetes made it to your brain.
Yeah.
So you were, because they can attack anywhere they want. So with you, it was joints and brain.
Yeah, it was in. I tested positive in 9 out of the 10 bands and 2 out of the 3 IgGMs, and the IgGs. I was 9 out of 10 positive in the Western blot test. So I was highly infected, and I know that the prednisone caused it to be that much worse.
Yeah.
And I was given to that. I was given prednisone by doctors at the Yale New Haven Lyme Clinic. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
obviously, you assumed they were trustworthy.
absolutely. I didn't know anything about Lyme or.
And they were probably doing their best, but they didn't know that much about Lyme either.
Exactly.
It's a very unknown disease.
Yeah.
So after he drove you home,
Yeah.
and you're confused and you can't remember things.
Yeah, he drove me home, and by being in the study, they gave me intravenous Rocephin, which is an antibiotic. So they put a shunt into my heart, and I had a nurse come every couple of days to check my dressings and everything. But they sent me all these balls of medicine, which is kind of like chemo for Lyme. And so every morning I would do the heparin flush, clean my lines, and screw on one of these little balls of poison and put them on. And I did 3 rounds of 6 weeks of Rocephin.
Is that the red one?
Yeah.
That's because I had that one in Arizona too. It makes your pee turn red.
Yeah, it's there's the jury's
It's intense.
Yeah, the jury's still out on antibiotic treatment for Lyme. But I think it did help me get over that hump.
Well, you did the doxycycline when you first thought it was a spider bite, which sometimes if people see the tick or get the bullseye rash, they go to the ER, they will give them doxycycline. And in an acute case like that, sometimes that does take care of it.
And amoxicillin is another antibiotic that's used. I was on that as well.
But for some reason with you in the beginning, it just didn't knock it out. It just got worse from there.
Yeah. And
probably because yours was such an extreme
case. Yeah. I was. I still have Lyme. I have chronic Lyme. I'll have it the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's another thing I want to make sure people understand it. And talking about the treatment being similar to chemo, as was mine, I think that people think because I know with me right now, people are like, well, she went to treatment, so she must be better. And I am better. But once you have Lyme disease, you have it forever. The hope is to get it in remission.
Correct.
But it also similar to cancer, remission is the goal. And we just have to know that we always are going to have it, which means that we have to be careful. If we get the flu, if we get COVID, if we get any kind of virus or infection, it can hit us much harder. It can re-flare up the Lyme disease. So we have to focus on our immune system.
Absolutely. The immune system is key.
Detoxing and keeping our immune system strong.
Absolutely.
Keys.
And that's what brought me to where I am today in health and wellness. And I really gave up on the Western medicine philosophy on this and started to look more at Ayurveda and holistic healing. And that's pretty much where I'm at today. I'm a teacher. I'm a yoga therapist now. And I use this not only to help myself heal, but to help all my clients heal as well. Because we all have weaker immune systems with the food supply and everything going on today. So in order to stay healthy, whether you have Lyme or not, we need to keep these immune systems strong.
Right. True for everyone.
True for everyone. But when I got to, I ended up moving from Connecticut. I got divorced because my wife, she couldn't take it. And that's very common for the Lyme community to have a lot of distress in the family.
Divorce rate, suicide rate, very high in Lyme disease.
Absolutely. And I don't blame my wife. I was so jacked up on medication. I wasn't me. I was somebody else and wasn't the guy she married, and I don't blame her. Um, but it was really really difficult because I was on antidepressants. They told me it was in my head, so they gave me antidepressants. They told me to see a psychiatrist, so I did. They told me to see a psychologist, so I did. I did everything they told me to do, and I was on so many drugs, narcotics, and you name it. So I was up and down and in and out. I didn't know where I was. I was all over the place until I moved to. I my wife and I divorced, and I sold my place in Connecticut and moved to Kerrville, Texas, where my parents had retired. Because I noticed every time I came to Kerrville, I felt a little better. It was a drier, warmer heat. Up in Connecticut, it's always damp and cold, especially in the spring. And I just felt really awful that time of year. But when I came down to visit for holidays, like for Christmas or Easter, I felt better. And so I sold my place, and having my parents' support was important. And when I was living so far away, every time I ended up in the hospital, Mom would have to fly up.
Yeah.
I was in the hospital a lot, and so she was flying up a lot, and that was hard on them. So I moved down here, and I met a guy named Anand Mahendale, who was my neurologist, and he was an Indian doctor, and he said, "You need to do yoga. This will help you." And I said, "You're crazy."
So you had not done yoga up until
No,
then?
no, I didn't. My mom did.
How old were you at that point?
I was in my 40s.
Okay.
I'm 62 now. But again, looking at me, you'd never know all the trauma that happened on the inside, right? And that's what was part of the problem with the doctors. They're like, you look fine, but I wasn't. Um, and so Dr. Mahendali said to do yoga. So I was walking with a walker, and I was like, "You're crazy. How am I going to do yoga?" So I went to a class at the yoga space here in town, and it was a teacher from Austin who's now a friend of mine and one of my teachers. And he had a class for yoga for a healthy back and a healthy neck. And he looked at me when I walked in for the class, and he's like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do with this guy? I'm just on a walker." But I was able to get through the class, and I noticed something. I was like, I actually feel a little better. So I started to take yoga regularly. I went to a beginner's class, and I started once a week taking beginner yoga, and then I started to feel better. So I started to take 2 classes a week.
I love how you just took the doctor's advice like you'd never done it before, and he's like, "Go to yoga," and you're like, "Okay." Like
Well,
a lot of people won't do
at
that.
that point, I had nothing to lose.
You literally had done
I
everything
had
that
done
anybody
everything.
told you to do,
Yeah, exactly.
and thank goodness for him. He had
Yeah,
the
yeah.
right answer.
He's uh,
Yeah. So many people hear the advice from their doctors, they go, "I'm not doing yoga. I'm not going to exercise. I hurt. Why would I go exercise when my body hurts so bad?"
what the yoga did for me is it taught me how to breathe. And to me, I firmly believe that the breathing is what healed me. A lot of people don't know how to breathe. Most people breathe 18, 20 times a minute, and we should only be breathing 6 times a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're hyperventilating and stressing out their nervous system and everything in it, right? The whole adrenal system, the hormonal system, everything gets stressed. The whole body is stressed just because we're hyperventilating, not breathing slowly and not breathing correctly. And once I started to learn how to breathe correctly, slowing my heart rate down, calming my nervous system down, calming the whole body down, I think that's what really allowed my body to start to heal.
Yeah.
And so I'm adamant about teaching pranayama and breathing to my students.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do a lot of workshops and a lot of things like that. And
So that pranayama, that particular style of breathing, is that just done in yoga, or can you just sit and do it?
no, anybody can do it. Pranayama just means the art of conscious breathing.
Okay. So it's just
when you're
big ins and
focusing,
big outs.
yes, when you're focusing on your breathing, that's pranayama. Prana is that life force energy that we breathe in when we're focused on the breath. Okay. And it goes into all our energy channels, the chakras and the sushumna and the ida and the pingala energy nadis, the energy channels in the body. And if we're just breathing regularly and we're not focusing on that, then we don't get that energy healing. But when we bring our awareness and our attention to the breath and focus on a nice breathing pattern, we should be breathing in for 5 seconds and out for 5 seconds. That's a full yogic breath. But most people breathe so much more shallow, and it really causes a lot of stress on the body, mind, organism. So I really believe that it was the breathing of the yoga, and the movement is also extremely important, because we have to loosen up all these breathing muscles, and all these muscles that were atrophied or locked because of lack of movement. I couldn't move for a couple of years. Because I was on the prednisone, I was up over 250 pounds, and I couldn't exercise. I couldn't walk. I couldn't even check my
Your
mail.
body hurt. That's why
Yeah,
it's so interesting to me that you went to yoga, because I'm like, I can understand that your body was hurting so bad.
yeah.
I mean, you had been on a walker and
But at that point, I wasn't going to give up, and I wanted to do anything that might help me.
yeah,
And I read a lot. I read a lot of books. I'm a researcher and Pitta by nature, so I wanted to study and try to figure out how I could heal myself, because obviously the medical system wasn't working.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
That's a great piece of advice we can give to our the people that hear this podcast too, is that you have to be your own advocate for your health. You should not just take the advice of one person, or even you have to get multiple opinions. You have to read a lot of books. You have to do your own research.
Absolutely.
One of the first things I did with my diagnosis of Lyme was to get on support groups. And then I regretted it, because it's stories like yours that are just excruciating about divorce, and moms losing their children because they didn't believe them, and having to literally be in a psych ward and know that you're sick, and they know it, but nobody will believe them. And
Yeah.
the support groups are just gut wrenching.
Yeah.
I some days I can get on and read and maybe comment positive things to people, but some days my heart can't do it.
Yeah, I couldn't do it either. I developed post-traumatic stress from this illness. It was like over a decade that I was sick. So I lost a lot of friends and a lot of family, and my job and everything. I lost everything. My
Yeah.
wife, and so it was very depressing. I was depressed and suicidal. I thought about it. I was really close to doing it. I'm glad I didn't. I turned to God, and I got a better answer.
Good. I'm so glad
Yeah.
you're still here today.
Yeah, me too. But it was really, really touch and go there for a while.
Yeah.
It's very painful. It's hard to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little emotional just thinking about all the pain and suffering that not only I went through, but my family,
Yeah.
my mom.
Yeah. It's a horrible illness.
Yeah.
All illnesses are horrible. I don't mean to, spotlight Lyme disease as the horrible disease, but I think it's just one of the ones that, because it's so misunderstood, it's
Well, it's a biological weapon. That's how it was
yeah.
made. That's what started it all. It was
There's
made to be a biological weapon.
Yes, there's a great book on that called Bitten, and I never can think of the author's name. She recently, a few weeks ago, did a interview with Tucker Carlson. I don't know if you heard that one, but it was a great interview. But anybody who wants to understand how this illness was created needs to read that book, Bitten.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
And it's scary too, because we all know that stuff like this is still happening. We are a target. And as you mentioned earlier, just in general, we live in such a toxic environment, but it's not just the food we eat and what we drink, but it's the air quality. It's we're being hit from every direction every day. And that's what goes back to our immune systems. Some people can get bit by a tick, and if they have a really strong immune system, they might get it. They might get a tick-borne illness, but it can lay dormant in their body for the rest of their life. They may not even know it.
Correct.
And you know what the number one tanker of our immune system is? I just learned this recently at treatment, is stress.
Yeah.
And, we're all going to have stress. We can't have a life without any stress. But if we don't learn how to manage it through yoga and breathing.
I just talked about this morning. Stress is a killer. I mean, it can affect so many things.
Yeah.
And we're all exposed to stress every day. Just driving to work every day. Yeah. It can be stressful.
We can't avoid it.
No,
we have to learn how to deal with it.
And that's where the yoga came in. It really helped me to get back into my body and to try to be more aware of my body and what's going on with it, and the mind too. You can't, these two are connected. So yeah, and what a lot of people don't realize is how Lyme disease is pandemic. There's thousands of cases being reported, and then there's thousands that aren't even being reported.
Right. They're saying right now there's 500,000 new cases per year, which is a big number, but that's just the ones that are diagnosed.
Exactly.
There's probably at least that many more that go undiagnosed.
That's just in America, right? This started in Germany, World War II. The German scientists. This is how this all started. It was a biological weapon, and so that's why this German Dr. Kessler, she knew exactly what was going on with me when I walked in her office. She said, "Well, we got to get you to Lyme study."
Yeah.
And so she really pretty much was the turning point for me. Getting off that prednisone was key.
Yeah.
So I don't recommend steroids to anybody that's experiencing Lyme. But we live in the hill country here in Texas, and there's deer everywhere, and that's primarily one of the vectors that these ticks travel on. And a lot of people think it's great. I got all these deer in my yard and they're beautiful, but they're also bringing in ticks, and
they're dangerous.
Yeah. And a lot of people just aren't aware. And so that's why, awareness is key to everything about this.
Yeah. I know a lot of statistics now because I like numbers, and the statistic is 85% of people that have it don't ever see the tick or get the rash.
Right.
85%. Yeah. So it's like a hidden danger.
Well, the deer tick is so small; it's the size of a pencil.
Yeah, like a pencil dot on a paper.
Yeah, extremely small, so you can barely see it. Yeah, and so if it gets in your hair or even on your back or anywhere, you're not going to.
I've met somebody else that came here to my gym here in Kerrville that woke up paralyzed one day. She was young. Woke up paralyzed, could not move. Her family gets her to the hospital, and they found a tick in her hair.
Wow.
And she has Lyme disease as well, but she was completely paralyzed and had no idea. It was on her at the time, and she had no idea.
And not all ticks carry Lyme, but the deer tick is one of the more prevalent carriers of it.
Yeah.
So, and we have deer everywhere around here, and so it doesn't surprise me that you got it, and that a lot of people around here. I mean, I'm from Connecticut. That's where this all started off of. There's an island off of New York City called Plum Island, and it's a highly scientific experimental island, high security. Nobody can get on that island, and the theory is that these ticks got off the island on birds, and they flew over to Connecticut and New York coast, and Lyme, Connecticut is right on the shoreline there, right next to the island, and that's the theory that how this started. Got those ticks got those.
It has trickled to everywhere though. One of my doctors in Arizona made a joke about, people that say, well, you live in Texas, you can't get it. There's not Lyme. He's like, what do you think the ticks know the boundaries, that they just don't, we're not going to go to Texas. They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
And I was in treatment with people from all over the world. Yeah. I mean, this isn't just a Connecticut thing or just a states thing. It's everywhere.
It is. It's a national,
very prevalent.
It's a national pandemic, and it's a worldwide pandemic. And a lot of people don't even know that. It's not talked about.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why, when you said you wanted to do this podcast, I thought this was a good idea to help inform people that, we need to be careful.
Yeah.
When you go out in the woods, make sure you're careful. Make sure you check your family, check each other when you come in.
Yeah.
Because I'm an outdoorsman. I love to hunt and fish and hike, and I'm not going to stop. The way I look at it now is I'm going to get the tick sick more than they're going to get me sick.
That's funny.
So I'm not worried about ticks at all anymore.
They should run from you.
That's my little deal. So I'm not going to live in fear. Outdoors is very healing. Being in nature is very healing, and I'm not advocating anybody, stay inside, because that's how we heal. We need the sun.
Yeah.
We need to hug the trees and feel the grass in our feet and ground and earth,
Yes.
and that's all part of the healing process.
Yeah.
That's all stuff that I learned by reading. Um, Trying to heal naturally. So getting outdoors was extremely beneficial in my healing process.
Me too. I can't imagine a life without grounding and sunshine and lakes and rivers and oceans
Yeah.
and living the ranch life. I am a lot more aware. I put tea tree oil on me now, when I go for walks, and may dress a little bit differently when I do that. But
wear light clothing, not dark clothing. So if you can see a tick, and it's hard sometimes. It's hot. You don't want to wear pants, but sometimes if you're going to be on a hike in the woods, you might want to wear some leggings or some pants or something just to protect yourself.
We have some great advice to give for people with yoga and breathing techniques. And we talked about the immune system, which I think is advice we would give everybody, is just keep your immune system strong no matter what.
Yeah.
Don't forget that you're responsible for keeping your immunity, where when you're attacked with these things, everything, every virus, every bacteria that we're exposed to every day, your body needs to be able to fight it.
And a lot of people don't realize when we breathe correctly, we breathe in and out through the nose. We create nitric oxide, which helps the immune system. Mouth breathers do not get that benefit. So if you're mouth breathing, you're not helping your immune system at all. You need to breathe in and out through the nose 24/7.
So you recommend 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, all through the nose?
Yes.
And doing that just throughout all day, throughout the day,
As
every
much
time
as
you think
can.
about it.
Yeah.
And then when you're exercising or doing yoga as well.
Obviously, when you're exercising, you might need to do a little mouth breathing. You're going to be a little shorter breath, but we want to try to breathe through the nose as much as possible. That's our air conditioning device, and that's where the nitric oxide is made. Our body naturally helps our immune system by breathing through the nose.
Yeah.
So it's very important. And and when we breathe a full yogic breath, we want to breathe into the abdomen first, then into the side ribs, and then up into the chest and the upper back. So there's 3 breathing spaces. We want to fill the whole body up with the breath. A lot of people just breathe shallow right up here in the chest, and that stresses out your immune system and your nervous system. And so that's contraindicative for everything.
Yeah.
Stressing out, again, stress is not good. And so to reverse that, I think the first thing to do is to learn how to breathe. So just lie on your back when you go to bed at night. Bring your hand to your belly, and when you breathe in, the belly should rise. When you breathe out, the belly should pull in. And just do some belly breathing, diaphragmatic breathing. This will also help your gut brain and your digestive system by massaging all those internal organs while you're breathing. So there's a lot of health benefits to the breath, and I could go on for hours about breathing. To me, that was the key to my healing and reducing my stress and increasing my immune function.
Yeah, I have to add this to my regimen. I catch myself all the time. Well, actually, the watch will tell me, it'll ding, and I'll look, and it'll say breathe, and I'm like, oh yeah. I forgot. Yeah. And as a personal trainer, I tell people all day long, breathe, don't forget to breathe, don't forget to breathe. And it seems so silly, but it's critical.
They really should be teaching this to the kids. I mean, because it's not just about Lyme disease, it's about all health and wellness. This should be taught in health science class.
Yeah.
Because when we're born, we all breathe normally the way God was intended us to breathe. All our bellies go up, and our belly. You go into a nursery, you see a bunch of little bellies going up and down.
That's so true.
Somewhere along the line, we all lose that.
We all get stressed out.
Yeah, and so we start. What do we do when we're stressed? Right? We take a gasp.
Yeah.
Right. And that's that short, shallow breath up into the chest, and then I don't know. I was actually reverse breathing. Breathing in, I was pulling the belly in, and breathing out, I was relaxing the belly, and that's just contraindicative to
probably
everything.
How most people.
Yeah.
I would assume that's how most people do it.
Yeah. But the breathing is huge.
Who would have thought we could be breathing wrong?
Yeah.
But we can.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of people do. And this is why I coach, and I teach in my yoga therapy classes.
Yeah.
That's we always do pranayama in every class. It's important.
Well, I'm so glad that our paths finally crossed.
Me
I've
too.
heard your name for a long time.
Mm.
I've always heard really good things about you.
And you as well. Thank
And
you.
I hate that it's Lyme disease that brought
I
us
know, but
together, but
whatever
we
it
would have
works.
crossed paths eventually anyway.
Yeah.
But I appreciate your time and I appreciate your story. And I know it's emotional. And I appreciate you doing this with
Well,
me.
thanks. And if there's anything I can do in your recovery, I'd be just let me know.
Thank you.
I'm
I'll
here
take you up on it.
because a lot of people, know a lot of my friends who didn't think I'd be here today. Anytime they hear of a family member or somebody that gets sick, they call me. And
Well, it's
so
so nice just to have someone that understands because I'm a pretender with my family, my kids, my client. I just pretend that everything's okay.
Yeah.
And that's how I choose to get through every day.
Yeah.
And I could be having a terrible day and nobody here would know it because I am a pretender and I have been for a long time. But having people that are friends that I can be honest about it and say, I am so screwed up and my brain is not working and I don't know what to do about it. And just having somebody to talk to that understands is huge.
Yeah, it is. And I appreciate that too. Yeah, when I always say, listen to your body. If you're having a bad day, if you're having a flare up, that's your body telling you to take a break, lie down, do what you got to do. Just don't push it.
Yeah.
Listen to that body because it talks to us. It tells us if we should be doing something or not.
Yeah, that's true. We have intuition.
Yeah.
We got to listen to our gut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, there's a really good documentary on Netflix called Hack Your Health. And it's about the gut microbiome and how important the immune system is and how everything is, and connecting the what we eat affects how we think as well. And so the belly brain and the head brain are two in the same. And they're doing numerous studies and numerous findings showing that how intelligent our belly brain really is, and how important what we put in there is.
Yes.
So food is medicine, and I learned that a long time ago. There's actually a couple of books about that. Food is medicine is one of the books. But it does make a big difference in our recovery and in our health and wellness.
Yes, it's everything. It's exercise. It's using our bodies. It's what we put in our bodies. It's what we drink. Even people that think they're drinking, I drink nothing but water. Okay, but what kind of water? Are you drinking it out of a plastic bottle? It's everything that we do matters.
Absolutely.
Because the world is so toxic. We have to be so careful.
Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right.
It's coming at us from every direction.
Yeah. And so just do the best you can, right? Don't stress out about it, but just do the best you can.
Yeah.
Try to make better choices. And that's
None
what
of
I
us
love.
can be perfect all the time, but we can all do better.
Yeah,
for sure.
And that's what brought me to yoga and Ayurveda. Ayurveda is the oldest form of holistic healing, and it means the science of life. And it's the yogis were doing this thousands of years ago, and so it's a wonderful tool to help in the healing process as well.
Yeah. Well, we are both blessed to be in the wellness industry, the fitness industry, and anybody that wants to reach out to either one of us. I'm at Phoenix Wellness Center here in Kerrville, and you can come through me to get to him because I have his contact, or you can.
ricksyogatherapy.com.
ricksyogatherapy.com. Okay.
Yeah. And I do a lot of work with veterans. Like I said, I was dealing with post-traumatic stress. I can relate to a lot of what the veterans are dealing with as well. Post-traumatic stress doesn't have to be from war. It can be from an illness. A lot of people that have Lyme disease deal with post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
And it's not fun either.
Yeah. Well, we're both here to say that if you have Lyme disease or any kind of issue and you're struggling, please reach out. Please talk to somebody. Please get some help. I'm here to listen. He's here to listen. I know that the two of us will help any of you that hear this any way we can, but don't ever give up. Just don't ever give up. It's not an option.
No, it isn't. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
And it was hard for me. I was even seeing a lot of people who read and got a couple of readings. psychic readings,
Mm-hmm.
and I kept getting that message that there's light at the end of the tunnel. There's light at the end of the tunnel, and so I didn't give up, and I'm glad I didn't. Because it's very easy to do,
Mm-hmm.
But don't give up. Be strong. Know that there's people out there that understand and can and will help.
Yes.
And we're two of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. God puts the right people in my path every day. I know that.
Yeah.
I never question it. And yeah, anything that we can do to help people, I know we will.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much
You're
for your
welcome.
time. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. And
Thank you.
maybe we'll have to have a continuation of this at some point.
Anytime. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.